Hi, I'm Taryn Lupo from TarynLupo.com. Stand by to learn all about how to start your own organic garden stand. I always try to support my local farmers market, and I shop there all the time. But when I drive around New Hampshire, I also see all these little farm stands that are on the side of the road. And I always wondered if those were profitable. So I decided to give someone a call who has the largest organic farm stand in all of New Hampshire and find out some tips and secrets about starting your own.
I'm Rosaly Bass, and I've been farming this land since 1973. We are the biggest and the oldest certified organic farm in New Hampshire, and we are still doing it and we love it. We grow just about everything we sell in this farm stand except for peaches, nectarines, and right now we're buying in corn, but we are going to have our own corn in several weeks. This is our biggest crop here, tomatoes. We sell at least 100 pounds a day. Yesterday we sold over 200 pounds. We have an acre of you-pick flowers. The reason we got into you-pick flowers is we wanted something pretty to have around the farm stand, and also something that would engage customers, something that customers would really enjoy, which is picking their own flowers. It's an acre and we have 100 different varieties, and over the years we've changed varieties, trying to find the best ones, ones that the customers like, ones that last well and look beautiful. We grow two kinds of berries, which are you-pick berries, but we also pick them for customers at the farm stand. And we planted our first raspberries in 1990 when we first opened the farm stand. And this bed here is quite new. We began to learn more about what varieties were good and how to plant them and so forth. Tailors are everyone's favorite. They're the best flavor, but we decided to try some other berries too, and some of them were good and some of them didn't do as well. I have 240 bushes here, which is actually plenty for you pickers and for us to pick. And then also blueberries are really easy to grow organically. You can just about control any problem using cultural methods, and by that I mean pruning them and mulching them with wood chips. Those two things are what makes a really good organic bed of blueberries. This is an example of where we are right now. These bushes we have been picking for about 2 weeks, and this bush is going to have many, many more ripe berries. These blue ones here are ready to pick, but these here are ones that are maturing, and as you can see there's a lot of immature fruit right now. We have 3 different varieties of blueberries here, ones that mature really early, the early blues, and then the Patriots are next, and these are the Northlands, and as you can see we are going to be picking from a bush like this for at least another 2 or 3 weeks. This is an electric fence here. This top ribbon has wires in it, and the 2 bottom wires are just regular wires, and we have a solar charger that works to keep this fence electrified, and we use it only on crops that pests like deer and bear and woodchucks and raccoons like to get into. And we bait whichever wires we're concerned about for animals. This one here we would bait for deer, and we bait it by hanging a piece of foil over it and slathering peanut butter on the foil, and deer absolutely love it, and they either stick their tongues or their noses on it. and it gives them quite a shock. It hurts, but it doesn't harm them. But it's a good teacher. They won't go in if they've gotten shocked. I want to tell you about a new thing that we have learned about potatoes and the potato beetle. We've learned that if you lay plastic hilled over your rows, and then you plant the potatoes, the seed potatoes, through the plastic, that you don't have a problem with the first generation of potato beetle that comes walking out of the woods. The potato beetle, all of them have wings, but the first generation don't fly, so they come from the woods, they get to the plastic, and they can't climb up the plastic. So you have 2 or 3 weeks with no problems with potato beetles. And by the time the ones with wings come out, the plants have gotten pretty big and they can't do as much damage. The other thing you may notice is there's low-growing kale planted between the rows, and we did that because we've learned that the wireworm, which we were losing almost half of our potato crop to, doesn't like kale, and we don't know how well this is going to work. This is the first time we've tried it. You'll notice that between the rows there's grass growing, and that's actually not weeds. It's annual ryegrass, which we've planted on purpose between the rows, and it has an allelopathic effect on weeds. They either don't germinate well or they don't grow well, and so it's very helpful to use between rows where you've laid plastic. The problem is with planting it next to the plants is you're going to have the same problem. The plants won't grow well, so you want to do it where you've laid plastic. Lettuce is one of our 10 largest crops. We plant a crop of lettuce every week, and each crop has 2,000 heads in it. And we start all of our seed indoors in plug trays. Our plug trays have 288 plugs per tray. And the reason we do that is because it helps us beat the weeds to plant plants rather than planting seed. And so that works pretty well for us. And we begin planting lettuce in mid-March indoors and move it out in sort of the end of April, and we plant right up until mid-August. We're planting plants. And we also pick varieties that are less likely to have problems. For instance, we've in the past had a lot of problem with downy mildew, and so we now pick varieties that are resistant, that have a resistance to downy mildew. This is a 3-acre field of winter squash and pumpkins and gourds, and we mostly plant it from seed, and it is planted in rows of black plastic, and we do cover it with floating row cover, and we keep the floating row cover on to keep the striped cucumber beetle and the squash beetle off it until we have to pull the cover off because the plants are flowering and bees need to be able to get to the crop to pollinate it. We have probably about 10 or 12 different varieties of winter squash and lots of varieties of pumpkins and gourds. And in the fall it really is a wonderful thing for our sales, and also makes the farm stand look beautiful. This is a field of tomatoes and rows of tomatoes with rows of peppers and rows of eggplants growing together. And these plants like each other, so we like to plant them with each other. And this is an experiment that we've tried for the first time this year. We lay our rows of plastic where the plants are planted through, and then we laid between the rows this ground cover, which is called a ground cloth, people who grow plants to sell use it usually to keep weeds from coming up, but it works spectacularly well on this crop, as you can see. This is a hoop house. Our hoop houses range between 14 feet and 100 feet to our biggest one, which is 30 feet by 100 feet. This was the earliest planted one. We started the plants indoors in mid-February, and we transplanted them about a couple of weeks into larger pots, and then we transplanted them in this greenhouse on April 1st. And we were picking ripe tomatoes to sell at our farm stand in the end of June, and we're now at the end of July or early August, and we're still picking a lot of tomatoes. And the reason you're not seeing any red ones is this greenhouse was picked this morning, and I don't know how many boxes they got off them, but it's a very effective way to grow a lot of tomatoes well. Each line, we can squeeze in 4 rows in a greenhouse this size. This is 14 feet wide. We can get a lot of tomatoes in here. They're planted 1.5 feet apart, and then there's a drip line that runs under each row, and we actually have sort of a low-tech way of checking for whether they need watering or not. We feel they need watering at least once a day for 2 hours, but we'll check it, and sometimes it needs another 2 hours. And the way we check it is we just pinch the soil in one of the rows, and if the dirt holds together, then it doesn't need watering again. If it crumbles, we know it needs a second watering. And also, I should say about these greenhouses is they're not the only things we grow in them. For this crop here that gets planted in April, it'll be the first crop that gets planted, but then we'll plant something else after this crop is done, spinach or salad mix or something like that. So we do have a rotation going on in the greenhouses as well. This is the last of the 6 houses that we built. Each one of these houses was really built by 2 people. I was one of them for each one. This house was built by me and my farm manager, who also now is a part owner with me on the farm. And it was quite challenging for 2 people to do this, because we had to pick up these hoops and put them in the ground posts. And what would happen, he would pick up his end and put it on, and I was supposed to pick up my end and put it on, and I wasn't strong enough to do it, so I'd have to hold it upright, and he'd have to run across the house and put my side in too. But anyway, we did do this all ourselves. We actually this is quite a high house. It's at least 20 feet high, and the only way we could get up to it was to bring our big tractor in with a bucket, and I would drive it, and he would be in the bucket putting in the roof pieces. In here we have planted just heirlooms, and as you probably can see, some of them are really big. We'll take a picture of a really big one that'll probably weigh 2 pounds when it ripens. And we trellis these differently. We use a basket weave system for most of our tomatoes. You have to have posts in the ground for that. These are all done by hanging strings from above, and you just take a plant like this. You take a plant like this one, and you just bring it around the string. You have to be careful not to break off the side branches, and just wrap it around like this. And this will hold this plant up even when it has really big tomatoes on it. And that's what it looks like. It's pretty easy to do. And you, with the other ways we grow the basket weave, we don't do a lot of pruning. When you use this system, you do have to prune. You have to get the plant down to like 2 main shoots per plant. And you have a string for each shoot. But you can grow a lot of nice tomatoes in here. Last year I wrote a garden book, and it talks about how to raise everything that we raise, from planting the seed to transplanting it to planting it in the ground and taking care of it and picking it. It's really a whole year's worth of advice and knowledge that that has taken me years to learn. So it should be helpful moving you along to not make some of the mistakes I made over the years. It's being sold at my Farmstand and other bookstores, and also you can get it on Amazon. And if you want to email me, my email is like my name, which is rosalysgarden.com, at AOL.com, sorry. And you can also write me. My address is in this book, and call me. My telephone number's in it as well.
I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now's your chance. Just click this button right here. Also, please remember to give this video a thumbs up, a like, a share, and if you have something to add, please comment below. One last thing is stop over at terranlupo.com to see all my private and unlisted videos. Currently, I have one up on how to grow and sell carnivorous plants.